Friends, I'm very thankful to Dr. Tarun Patel for having invited me here. And I really respect him a lot. He's a committed intellectual, actually. And he has been editing, on ELT Weekly for the past so many years for the benefit of teaching community. This is a Herculean task indeed. And I wish to place on record my deep appreciation of his zeal and enthusiasm, and of course his scholarly aptitude. It's third time that I happen to be availing of the kind invite by Dr. Patel to speak at this forum. Turning to the topic, I'd like to share my PPT on this occasion. Can we do that
Yes, sir.
at my end, maybe? Okay, just a minute. I'll do it here. I don't have any option to, yeah, here it is, share screen. Yeah, all right.
We can see your screen, sir.
Okay, great. Great. Now this
Yes.
is it. Now,
Yeah.
wonderful. So, friends, as has been announced here, this is a talk on retellings of Indian epics. And as we all know, that it's a topic which has been very much, debated across different fora. And it's so dear to me because it's part of the Indian English fiction, which is my chosen area of specialization. Also because it is something that concerns the acculturation process for our youth, the youth who are entrusted to us as teachers, and we are the ones who are supposed to shape their future thinking as well. Friends, there's no denying the fact that epics, the Indian epics, I mean, are valued not only in India but also in different countries. Now, here is a photograph of the Swarnabhumi airport at Bangkok. Many of you might have seen it. And there's my wife standing. Please don't look at her. So the tableau at the back of it is of Sagar Manthan, which is you know nativized, so to say, in Thailand also, apart from in our own apex. Not only in India, therefore, but also away from India. Ramayana was actually sown over there by Chola and Pallava dynasties, and they left their cultural imprint in Southeast Asia in a big way. Ramayana is known as Ramakeen in Thailand. And they have an Ayodhya, so it's called Ajudhya, you know that. And this story travels all across Southeast Asia up to Indonesia, and we know there are linkages with South Korea as well. And even in Japan, we have the imprint of not only Buddhism but also of this particular epic. And these epics were actually taken to those foreign lands also by the Girmitia labor community. I mean, those who were drafted as labor, as bonded labor, so to say, by the English colonizers long back. And there was a student group from uh, some such countries who visited our university. And they came from Suriname, Mauritius, Guyana, and so on and so forth. And I was really surprised to learn that a student from Trinidad and Tobago, which is again an island in the Caribbean, island country, he told us that they play Ram Leela regularly over there. And he says there's a common sight. There's no need for preparing any stage. They can even play in the fields. The children do it that way. So it was very interesting to learn that. Now, what we mean by retellings, you see, why it is actually catching on, there are reasons for this. First is that within India there is a surge in spirituality. We have seen the inauguration of Rama Temple, and the people elsewhere in the world are getting interested in India and its culture because India is now progressing fast on the economic front. So that is what appeals to people in the Western world. Now, our epics, which are written in Sanskrit, and Sanskrit is not understood by everybody, whether it is abroad or in India. So the retellings in English become all the more important, and people can access our epics through these translations and retellings. Another reason for turning to stories from our epics at the world stage is that, and I heard it at Hay Festival long back, there was a publisher being interviewed, and somebody asked him why exactly is the interest growing in Indian epics. And he said the plain reason is that we have exhausted all our stories. There are no more stories to be told by English authors here in England. So it is the field is open to Indian writers or to Indian retelling, so to say, taken up by those who are interested. So that is another reason. But there's a flip side also. You see, in order to sell well in the Western market, some of the retellings actually corrupt those storylines, and they focus on titillating aspects of stories. If they're not there, then they'll introduce them. So there is a lot of distortion happening in the original version. So I published this book 2 years ago, and there was a survey conducted by me, which is there in this book also. It was a survey of 500 books published between the year 2011 and 2015. Some 500 books were published during that period, and 45 of them were devoted to retelling of myths and epics. Now, as compared to other categories like Indian psychology, relationships, social political, detective fiction, popular fiction, etc., it's not that big. But the fact is that it's a considerable number. It's growing very fast. So you can look at the long list of authors who are actually dabbling into this particular field. Ashok Bankar, Ramesh Tripathi, Chitra Banerjee, Devdutt Patnaik, so many of them. We'll touch upon some of them here and how exactly they have dealt with uh, these stories from the epics. And first of all, I'm going to take up Ashok Bankar. Friends, Ashok Bankar, I hope many of you are aware of him. Born in 64 in Mumbai, he's an Anglo-Indian actually. And he started his life as a journalist. First, he started writing crime fiction. Then he wrote what we say young adult novels. So with such a background, he took over the writing of stories from epics. Till now, in the span of 20 years, he has published 25 books based upon the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata. And in all, he has 70 books to his credit. And his site tells us that these are published in 16 languages also, and there are 2 million copies sold in 58 countries. So that speaks very well of his popularity, written for television also. And we take it now his novel Siege of Mithila, which is one of his earliest works. Friends, it doesn't take long for one to realize that Bankar alters the narrative as it is known to general public in India from the revered ancient scriptures written by Sage Valmiki and Tulsidas, as well as through the popular theatrical productions in most Indian cities prior to the Sara festival, as we know, Ramli Nights Cup. What we can see is the impact of his grounding in writing crime fiction and young adult fiction. And that is writ large and these retellings also. Now, this book begins with the portrayal of Ram and Lakshmana as students in Guru Vishwamitra's ashram. There's a message from Ayodhya, and he's called home. And Guru Vishwamitra takes both the students, pupils, Ram and Lakshman, But he takes a circuitous route. He doesn't go straight to Ayodhya. He takes another route. And why exactly? Well, he knows that Ravan is going to attack Aryavarta nation. Okay. Now I see where exactly the aberration takes place. So over there in Ayodhya, what happens? Manthara, the maid, is actually Raman's spy. Okay. And the plan to attack Ayodhya and the woman's spy, now these are, of course, products of Banker's imagination. This word that he picture, that he portrays there is full of fantasy and magic. Through magic, mantra transforms a maid into a clone of Queen KKE. So cloning is happening at that stage over there. She is deputed to murder King Dashrath. Ravan, on the other hand, infuses life into a dead soldier whose name is Deviya, and he is sent out to Ayodhya to possess Dashrath's body. So, from two sides, there's going to be an attack on Dashrath. Now, he possesses Dashrath's body, and while he is possessing his body, he passes orders on the two sons who are there, Bharat and Shatrughan, to proceed with the entire Ayodhya army in two different directions, so that Ayodhya is left defenseless and Raman can seize it. Now, Bankar is chosen to lend the novel touch of thriller also. See, Sita, the character of Sita, she is no demure princess, but a warrior. And along with her female bodyguard, the name is Nakudi Devi from Haryana. Okay, she's a Jat from Haryana. And both are disguised as soldiers. They go about in the forest surveying the city's security of Ayodhya. But then they are surprised by bandits. They are the highwaymen. And they grab them. And then they are released, of course, by Rama at the time, because they are passing by that side. Sita and Nakudi are taken to be traveling Kshatris also, willing to work for any master for money, monetary soldiers. I mean, what do you call it? Mercenary soldiers. So the mercenaries are not just at work in our time, they are there in Treta Yuga also. The Swambar, you understand? Swambar at Mithila is being organized. That is not disturbed by the appearance of Ravan in disguise. He also wants to take part in it. And he is able to break the bow. She was bow. And then he says, well, I claim Sita now. Now Sita begs for he holds actually Janak by the throat. He says, give me your Sita, otherwise I'm going to kill you. And Sita begs for the life of her father, agrees to be Ravana's wife also, surprisingly. But then he is challenged by the two brothers, and the Guru is also there. And then the prophecy that Shiva is angry with him for having broken the bow. Ravana disappears, but not before delivering a warning to seize Mithila by the evening and then rape Princess Sita. Look at this. This is the exact word used there. Now, such a concoction is not in not so disguised language. Is definitely a affront to the sentiments of the Hindu community. The serving girl turned by Manthara into a KK clone. She goes to King Dashrath. Okay. What does she do there? She, look at this slide, it's very interesting. Opened her jaws. Show you the comment that is there. KK pounces upon Dashrath, opened her jaws, revealing two enormous serpentine fangs. Then, with one final heart-chilling hiss, KK raised her head and fell on Dashrath with the fury of a predator in heat. Her mouth closed over Dashrath's neck. It's a female Dracula indeed. And There's no end to imposition of present day situation also on the story of the capital. What do you find next? There are Lakshman Ram roaming in the city, and then what happens? There's scene where Sita is looking for Rama, okay, and Lakshman comes up beside Rama and speaks softly in Rama's right ear. Looks like someone still sore as a mule at being outed, brother. Watch out for a back kick. Sita has probably not looked at him lovingly, and that is the comment from Lakshmana. Now, prior to Swambar, when they meet in the jungle, Lakshman speaks to Sita in this way. And there's another comment about the goes in Ayodhya. Interesting comment again. He says it is, you can see the erotica here. He says, I hear Mithila virgins have fine figures too. You really know how to provoke a man's imagination, telling Sita. I'll be dreaming all night of naked virgins prancing down the Rajmarg. Clearly, Bankar has taken substantial liberty with the epical tale. And surprisingly, not even the Guru is spared. Guru Vasishtha is said to have used sorcery to remove the veil of Sita in the jungle. Yes, the same Sita who fought the bandits like in her veil. That's interesting. So, at that point, Sita wanted to scream out loud and run away from these gawking, gaping people. And she admonishes them in what language? And the rest of you, if you want entertainment, go find the nearest tavern or dance hill. This isn't a free show provided for entertainment. So this is Sita, who is said, it is said about her that it wasn't the first Swambar for her, because she had actually turned down suitors by the hundreds before also. I can see what kind of corruption has gone into this. Now coming to another author, we leave it at that. There's many to touch upon. You must have heard his name, Amish Tripathi, right? He's another popular Indian writer. Right now he's, I think, director of Nehru Center in London. He's reported to have sold some 2 million copies again of Shiva trilogy, comprising the Immortals of Meluha, the Secret of the Nagas, and the Oath of the Vaiputras. The sales are claimed to be over 500 million. And that is the fastest selling book. That's what they say about this book, fastest selling book series in Indian history. After this, he has published books on Ramayana also, which are described here. But he seems to have been inspired by Ashok Bankar, I should say. His language is rather prosaic and shorn of literary beauty. So, what is the subject matter is concerned, it's a mix of so many things. There's a critical comment also. It's a mix of myth, history, fiction, and whatnot. So, friends, we take up this first novel by him, The Immortals of Meluha, and I believe many of you must have read it. And what I say probably would find acceptance by you also. Lord Shiva, whom we believe to be one of the trinity of gods in Indian epics, is presented in the novel as the leader of a tribe called Ganas. We say Gana. They live at the foot of Mount Kailash in Tibet. Nandi is not the bull on which Shiva rides, it's rather the captain from another clan, the Suryavanshi. Now, the Suryavanshi are at dagger's dawn with Chandravanshi clan. Chandravanshi clan is the one to which Lord Ram belongs. He invites Shiva. Now, this Nandi invites Shiva and his tribal Ganas to settle in Meluha, which is said to be Kashmir. It's considered to be the richest and most powerful empire in the world. I think it would remind you of how exactly Kashmir access to Indian Union after the signing of agreement by Raja Hari Singh. Having reached there, Shiva is declared a messiah. who has come to help the Suryavanshi clan of Meluha against the other clan, that is Chandravanshi clan, which is based in Ayodhya and worship Lord Ram, but they have deviated from the message of Lord Rama. So Ram and Shiva are contemporaries. Now the Chandravanshi clan carries out terrorist attacks on Suryavanshis. Terrorism is also there at the time. The issue of conflict is the Somarasa, which is invented by the Chandravanshis, and which has the quality of keeping youth intact and adding to years in life. So there is a factory of Somaras in Kashmir, and they attack it for that sake. Now Shiva is careless about his looks, we know. And when he is to be presented to Suryavanshi king, whose daughter is Parvati, then he is made presentable. How is he made presentable? Look at this. His hair, his fair face had been scrubbed clean. Sorry, here also. His hair had been oiled and smoothened. Lines of expensive clothes, attractive earrings, necklaces, and other jewelry were used to adorn his muscular frame. His fair face had been scrubbed clean with special Ayurvedic herbs to remove years of dead skin and decay. I think any beauty parlor in our times, anywhere, would probably feel subdued by this description. Shiva wins over Sati through the dance performance, just as it happens in many Hindi movies. Now, Sati, I mean Parvati, is a Vikarmi. She is supposed to have committed some sin in previous birth, and the blood persists in next life. She is the outcast, so to say, just like the community here. So there is the nefarious caste system also, which is prevalent in India right now. And the author explains that Rama had institutionalized the system of Vikarma based on one's deeds, but it's now applied irrationally. Anyway, thanks for this mercy. Shiva doesn't know about Lord Ram, nor does he know the meaning of the sacred word Om. Nandi acts as guru to Shiva and enlightens him about the meaning of Om also. That's interesting. He says, my Lord, Om is the holiest word in our religion. It's considered to be primeval sound of nature, the hymn of the universe. It was so holy that for many millennia, most people would not insert it by putting it down in written form. That's, of course, quite correct. Now, the corruption of myth goes on without any scruples. The action is placed around 1850 BC, 1850 BC. And the reign of Lord Ram is before this by 1250 years. That's what the book says. But when it comes to matching with the accepted chronology of Puranas, Ram and Krishna cannot be placed anterior to Shiva. We know that because they are the primeval gods. Okay. So how could Shiva worship Ram? In fact, we have, pictures of Ram worshipping Shivalinga at the time of attack on Lanka, doing this at Rameshwaram. Shiva attains the title of Nilkantha. How? Not because he has drunk, poison during Devasur Sangram, but he's drinking too much of Somaras. Okay. And Tripathi doesn't, Amish Tripathi doesn't spare history too. He mixes up imaginings from diverse sources, Plato's Republic to Marxist utopia. Children are the same state property in Meluha. That's Marxism, Maoism at work. Children are brought up by the state, okay? And the Chandravanshi capital, Swadeep, has more potholes than roads. Encroachments are the order of the day. There's constant tension between rich home owning classes and the poor landless people live in slums. The emperor had legalized all encroachments established before 1910 BC. The city of Ayodhya surpasses the most passive societies of Europe, as we find the young and the old trying to woo whomsoever they can. So in a way, Tripathi has marshaled all elements to create a storyline and imposed whatever we see around us, encroachments and potholes and roads on those times, on those roads as if we were witness to all that. Anyway, they have the liberty, the novelists have the liberty. The main thing is, you can't, change the chronology of the epics or the Puranas. That's one thing. It's a big, big blunder, let's say. Now, coming to another author, again a popular one, Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni. Uh, okay, I'll not be sparing so much time for her because I'm running short of time, I believe. Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni deals with the ancient stories in a manner that is different from the likes of Byankar and Tripathi. She is basically Calcutta born, graduation she did in India, but PG in US, and she's teaching at Houston. She's a serious poet and writer, as we all know, and she has 20 books of fiction to her credit. I'll not name them. The Palace of Illusions by Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni tells the Mahabharata story from Draupadi's point of view. The storyline is original, that is, as understood commonly in India, but the perspective is feminist. Divakaruni shows her as an intelligent and shrewd woman who knows how to keep her husbands in check. At the end of Mahabharata war, she takes up welfare work also for the widows of the war until she sets out on journey to heaven with her husbands, as we know it all. However, Divakaruni has also discovered love for Karna in Draupadi's heart. As a young girl, Draupadi is shown to have liked Karna, but discovered prejudices against him in her brother Drupad and also in Krishna. Krishna is the friend. She muses at one point, and this is her thought process. She says, I confess, in spite of the vows I made each day to forget Karna, to be a better wife to the Pandavas, I longed to see him again. Each time I entered a room, I glanced up under my veil. I couldn't stop myself, hoping he was there. The angle of promiscuity is in vogue, and what better way to sell a novel than to have what sells? No? Sensing Draupadi's leanings, Kunti tries to tempt Karna with the offer to make him the sixth husband of Draupadi, provided he did not fight his brothers. It's so powerful that even when she dies, she meets Karna in ethereal form, and her long-standing wish is fulfilled in heaven. However, there is no such insinuation in the original Ved Vyas Mahabharata. We leave it at that. Come to the next one. Ananda Neelakantan. I'm taking only popular ones and dealing with a few lines from their works. Let me increase the light here. Yeah. So Ananda Neelakantan, we know, is Kerala born and he's written some 15 books in English so far. He's a novelist who embarked upon retelling of myths from a particular angle, though he too dabbles in practice of imposing present-day scenario on epical times. His debut novel is Asura, Tale of the Vanquished, Story of Ravan and the People, published in 2012. Based upon Ramayana, presents the story from the point of view of Ravan rather than Rama. The narrative is first-person account of Raman and a commoner called Bhadra. Raman is shown to be lying on the battlefield in the very first scene and is reminiscing his past life. In order to sharpen the edge, the writer portrays Raman as a destitute boy who depends on his stepbrother Kuber. Kuber owns a business empire that is spread overseas also. Okay. So in a way, he is trying to put things in present perspective. He depends on Kuber for food and is humiliated. And what is his feeling? He says, my early struggles, the pangs of love and abandonment, separation, battles and wars, music and art, they all flash through my mind in no particular order, making no sense, meaningless like life itself. Unlike Bankar now, Neelakantan doesn't show Raman as imbued with magical powers. Bhadra is a commoner whose viewpoint too is included, thus contrasting the viewpoints of rich versus the poor. Neelakantan traces the Raman's patronage to a Maharshi father though himself was half caste. Yet commonly is acknowledged as a great scholar by people, and Ram is said to have asked Lakshman also, to approach him after he lay waiting for his death to get some advice from him on statecraft. Lying on the deathbed, Raman now claims. What does he claim? I wanted to laugh at my enemy, laugh at the foolish men who trusted me and who were now lying all around. That is his followers, the Lankan army. Laugh at the foolish men who trusted me and who were lying all around, headless, limbless, lifeless. I wanted to laugh at the utopian dreams of equality for all men on which I had built an empire. So that is glorifying Ravana. He had an egalitarian viewpoint, wanted to create a society based upon equality. But when Sita is shown as Ravana's daughter, that's the interesting thing, which is not a mainstream narrative. Of course, some Jain text, is called Pomacharya that mentions it. But it hardly fits in with the story of kidnapping of her Sita with the purpose of making her Lanka's queen. That is at the root of the war. Raman kidnapped Sita, wanted to make her the queen, so how can one talk of being his daughter and the queen itself? Well, there is alibi given here also. At the time of Savambara, when Ram broke the bow and won Sita, Raman had reservation about the future of his daughter, but acquiesced because of Sita's love for Ram. He vowed to keep a watch on her if ever she faced any problem in life. And what happened to Surpanakha was not just cutting of her nose. Regarding Neelakantan, something terrible happened. What was that? Well, she had suffered from some renegade forest dwellers who were rumored to be Nagas or Vanaras or Devas who had cut off her breasts and nose after raping her. So how could Raman let his daughter be with these dangerous men, quote unquote dangerous men, and abducted Sita to ensure her safety? The writer is confused about time period also, epical time and the later period. When he refers to building of Egyptian pyramids around the time of Ramayana. So postmodern way, fix up thing anywhere. So Egyptian pyramids are also said to have been built around the same time. That's interesting. When the kings of Egypt were busy building great domes to bury themselves, the Democratic Council of Asura Kingdom, that is Lanka, was busy laying roads, building hospitals, drainage systems, and all that. There are two other novels by Neelakantan and based upon Mahabharata. They're part of the Ajay series. Ajay, Roll of the Dice, and Ajay, Rise of Kali. In these two novels, Neelakantan has presented a story from the point of view of Duryodhana, the loser in the war, and has therefore reversed the roles of Pandavas and the Kauravas. The Pandavas are dubbed as villains, and Kauravas are the righteous ones. What about Lord Krishna? Well, he is presented as a manipulator and someone who likes to play God. Someone who likes to play God. So, if the Kauravas, that's what Neelakantan says in the book, if the Kauravas had accepted Krishna's divinity and agreed to whatever he did, the Mahabharata war would not have taken place. Unquote. That is what Neelakantan states on page 931 of Ajaya Duryodhan's Mahabharata. Therefore, Duryodhan is mentioned as Suyodhan in the book. So far as the language is concerned, Neelakantan describes images perfectly, but one fails to locate any literary embellishments like striking metaphors and all. That's mundane language throughout. Anyway, coming next to Kavita Kane, I hope you're not bored, friends. I hope you're not bored. Will I carry on?
Yes,
We have
sir.
come
Yes, sir.
to, yes. After that, after taking these nouns, we classify them and see what exactly is at the back of it all and what message do they convey and all. Now, coming to Kavita Kane, born in 1966 in Mumbai, she is another popular novelist, has taken up characters from myths who are marginalized. And the titles of her books also tell it all. Karuna's wife, we don't hear of her. Sita's sister, Menka's choice. I'm taking Lanka's princess here. This is Surpanakha stories that begins with Lord Krishna meeting Kubja. Remember, Kubza is a character there, hunchback sister of Kansa in Dwapar Yuga. Now, Lord Krishna meeting Surpanaka both belong to different yugas. We know that. And he tells her the story of her previous birth when she was Surpanaka and he was Rama. So that is how these are tied together. Since he had rejected her then, he wants to make amends and therefore he wants to have relationship with her and therefore turns her into a sweet beauty. That's Krishna doing to Kubza. So then the special feature of Karna's imaginative rendering is that she projects the story across yugas and eras as said. In the epilogue to the book, Karna states Krishna smiled and his smile he could see a certain future which the unsuspecting woman beside him could not see, but who would have to live it once more. It's explained that many centuries later, Surpanaka would be reborn as Phulavati, daughter of a chief of a clan, and meet Lakshman, who would be in love with, not the girl, with PUBG game. Lakshman in love with PUBG game. And the fiercest warrior of the clan, he's also fiercest warrior. I don't know whether he plays on the battleground or on the uh, no laptop watch. So what we see here, interesting again. What happens to their future? They will decide to marry, but on the day of wedding, he will be called to war, leaving his 7 pharaohs unfinished, and his bride alone, so never to return, dying on the battlefield. It was like before. Krishna decided Lakshmana, the eternal celibate warrior, refusing to accept Surpanaka, and she eternally unrequited in his rejection. So Surpanaka has a rebirth, Lakshmana has a rebirth, but Krishna is the spoil sport. Is that so? Khan is casting the narrative in the mold of Laila and Majnu can be excused, but was Lakshman celibate? That's my question. Didn't he marry Urvashi? In her novel, Sita's sister, Kana takes up Urvashi's life as the subject. She also mentions Raman going unveiled to Mithila to take part in Sita Swayamvar in the Swayamvar section. That's as in Venka's novel, Sita Mithila. Coming next to Devdutt Patnaik. Friends, Devdutt Patnaik, of course, is a different writer in a way. Born in 1970 in Mumbai, he is said to be gay. Forbes places him among the top 100 celebrities of India. He written 42 books on mythology and some 20 others, also on TV shows. He appears normally. Patnaik has churned out a large number of books based on Indian myths and legends. Very popular writer, of course. And there are books on the deities of Vishnu, Shiva, Hanuman. He's discussed the concepts of myth, heaven, and whatnot. He's a management consultant, basically. And he quotes mythology to buttress his management lessons. These are very, very good, of course. Taking up Patnaik's Jaya, this book here, one is impressed by the writer's quest for a researcher, as a researcher for Indian, for hidden meanings. As an example, we take up his section Bhima and the Nagas. From this book, I'm taking one section. It tells about Duryodhana's jealousy towards Pandavas, particularly Bhima. They used to quarrel during childhood. The Pandavas, though they were qualified by the original bloodline, they were opposed by Duryodhana when it came to grabbing the throne. They also felt dejected because their mother was a widow and they had no clout at the court. On the other hand, Bhima was a bullying sort, of whom Duryodhana was sick. So one day Duryodhana offered sweets laced with poison and Bhima became unconscious and then Duryodhana, along with his brothers, threw him into the river. But as fate would have it, he was saved by Nagas living in the river. They then took him to their king Vasuki. You know all that story. And he recognizes Bhima as related to Nagas by bloodline and gives Bhima a potion to drink so that poison doesn't have any effect on him. The different issues in the story have been commented upon by Patnaik, but out of the 5 boxed comments that he has put over there, I'll select 4 And these are very interesting for us. What kind of lessons does he reduce from these? One is that, well, he says the story is actually focused on these points. One is who should be the king, the eldest son or the fittest son, a child belonging to the original bloodline, or anyone with the right capability. Vyas ponders on this point throughout the epic. Second point is anthropologists believe that the Nagas refer to it in the epic. They were actually an agricultural community and they worshipped serpents as the guardians of fertility. They can't even do so even now. The dish prepared by Bhima is now called Aviyal in Tamil Nadu. So that dish is again a remnant of epical times, down to our times. Bhima got a wife from Nagaloka and had a son called Barbarik. We know that. I think Khatu Sham also probably is the same person. In Rajasthani folk tales, they are called Bilal Sen. No, Bilal Sen is actually in Odia. Barbarik is in Rajasthani folklore. Now, this further underlines the reach and strength of mythical tales across the length and breadth of India, at least. There's another work by him, Sita. It's a version of Ramayana that presents Sita's viewpoint. He also falls for this kind of strategy. Devdutt quotes different facts and figures about Ramayana through several tables. For instance, the name of Sita's mother is different across multiple versions of Ramayana. That he quotes them all. Now, these retellings also have graphics and summaries of epical tales, which give them the feel of an episodic novel as well. They're very impressive, of course. But the scholars have found mistakes so far as the language is concerned. They are particularly irked by the inaccurate etymologies of Sanskrit words and have concluded that Patnaik doesn't know Sanskrit. They certainly merit in this one. The Sanskrit scholar Nityanand Mishra points out that the meaning of Karan Sharir, given a social body in my Gita, has no linkage with widely accepted meaning. Similarly, Adhyatma as personal mind, Brahman as impersonal mind, and confusing man with Manas have raised echoes of Sanskrit scholars. I'm not going to more detail. Let's come to another novelist now, and this is Ami Ganatra of our times, recently published books on Ramayana and Mahabharata both. She is an alumna of IAM Ahmedabad, again a management professional and a yoga instructor. She calls herself a student of Sanskrit and Indian knowledge systems. And as I said, she has come up with these versions of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which she claims are authentic texts based upon Vyasa's Mahabharata and Valmiki's Ramayana. She has taken up important episodes from the respective texts and then told the story in postmodern way, that is without sequential or linear way of telling the story. Otherwise, she seems to be faithful to the original text. And she goes in for circular manner, as I said. There's the Ram's Vanshavali also. Size of Ayodhya is also given. And what's interesting for us is here, she quotes qualities for success in life taken from Ramayana as it is. These are the four qualities that we need to be successful in life. So actually, our epics are meant to deliver us life lessons. And she does well to underline these messages here. Then she also takes the factors which ensure success in our enterprise. She talks of karta, karanam, adhishtanam. That is, doer, means, place, time, approach, etc. And one more I'll quote from this book. I'm not going to take the story because story is the same as it appears in authentic texts, and we are aware of all that. Now here is a lesson in communication. When Hanuman, in disguise, came to Ram at Kishkinda Parbat as an emissary of Sugriv, he spoke very cryptically, but he had conveyed the message in a nice manner. Ram was praised for him. And he tells Lakshman, look how he has delivered the message. This is the best way to communicate. And there are some 9 points given here. Any management experts here would probably agree To all this, there's more than Bergson's seven C's here, right? Okay. So in this way, Ganatra brings out lessons for contemporary reader. She also tells the qualities of a leader, attributes of Ramarajya. Now, for us, there is something more interesting here. It is what we generally believe, but is not to be found in Valmiki's Ramayana. What is that? And taking up some points from there, these are not to be found there. Lakshman had even suggested imprisoning father. That is, she says it is there in original Valmiki, but we are not aware of that. Why? Because he had dispossessed Ram of kingdom. So Lakshman at one point even thinks about rebellion. There was no Lakshman Rekha created by Lakshman when Sita wanted that particular deer. There's no doubling of Vali's strength when he fights face to face. That is something which we normally believe. Rama hid himself because in case he were in front of Vali, his strength would have increased. He would have taken over Rama's strength also. Ravan had earlier violated women. Vedavati and Rambha, the two cases here. Rambha and Nal Kuber had cursed him at that time. That in case you do it again to any woman, you will be perished. Therefore, he didn't touch Sita. Shambhuk of
Very
Shudra caste.
sorry to
Correct.
interrupt. Next
Hmm.
session, next speaker has also
Okay,
joined, so
okay,
we
okay.
have
I'll,
to.
I'll wind. Right.
Yes,
Okay. I
thank
think you've gone through this, so I'll
you.
close
Yes.
this one. Now let's go to the next one and the last one. It is Dushyant Sridhar. He has recently published a book, and his first book was released, Ramayanam, Volume 1. It was released only on July 1st, and I grabbed my copy immediately. And I find him to be a wonderful uh, person. This, that he is a great Sanskrit scholar, and he has left the plush job. He did his graduation from BITS Pilani and also is interned at Indian Institute of Sciences as an IES fellow. But he quit his job and he's a full-time preacher now. He's delivered some 3,500 discourses in 23 countries. And therefore, what he says has a stamp of authenticity about it. Well, in this wonderful work, he has amalgamated stuff from other sources also, but all these are the ones like Kamba Ramayana or, Tulsidas. So all these sources are supposed to be authentic. And there are stories. What we find is that Ramayana is full of stories. It's not only Rama's story. There are stories of Savitri Satyavan, Kapil Muni, Dhruv, Hiranyakashyap, etc. So many of them. So that is an eye opener in a way. And I'll just quote one or two. Yeah, these are the two sentences I quoted because being a Sanskrit scholar, he can also pinpoint where lies the literary beauty, and that is missing in other versions. Ashok Bankar, of course, is a beautiful language himself, but then it's not the language of the epic that he actually is representing here in his works. It is his own language. But this one is actually exact reproduction of what is there in Valmiki Ramayana. So you can just go through it quickly. And friends, I'm just trying to wind it up now. After this, well, there are some other valid points also. For example, what exactly we make of this? Well, there is the Western impact. It's very clear. There's the postmodern kind of ideology at work here. Retailers say, well, of course, there have been other retellings also. Why not us? Well, the simple answer is that they were devotees. They approached these revered texts as devotees and as spiritual seekers. Today's retellings are done with an eye on money, how it will sell well in the Western market, make them titillating, extorting, and all that. And then there is the question about Indian historiography also. We believe these are itihas. Itihas means that is how it all happened. So that thing has to be taken into consideration. And these, therefore, are divided in four categories. One is genuine retellings, retellings of, let's say, Tulsidas hmm, and all those people. And later bit also, for example, right now we have seen there is the retelling by Sridhar. Huh? Before that, around the time, before independence also, Kesari Mohan Ganguly had produced a wonderful uh, translation of these works. Then there are the artistic, second category is artistic retellings. We give some leeway for that. Shashi Tharoor has produced, for example, the great Indian novel, and that is an allegory on Mahabharata characters, right? Similarly, we see there are marginalized characters which have been highlighted by the likes of Kavita Kane or Chitra Banerjee. But then there are also Ashok Bankar, Amish Tripathi, Nilikantan, who have distorted the storyline also. So my objection is only to those distortions. The distortions should not occur because, after all, there is hidden meaning in them, and therefore it makes a potpourri or, so to say, concoction of the original epics. So the lure of looker should not guide us because all this retelling is also having great cultural impact. What would our young generation feel like the characters of Ram and Krishna? Probably they'll place them alongside Batman and Superman. That's all. So the deeper meaning, the moral lessons which are there, they are lost on the new generation. And as teachers, it becomes our duty to tell our students which are the authentic texts, what is their meaning, which are the corrupted ones, which should not be there in our library. That's what I believe. Thank you so much for lending me your ears, for your patience. Namaskar.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Batra, sir, for this enlightening presentation. Sir,
Thank
your
you so much.
insights into the retellings of Indian epics have provided us with a deeper understanding of their impact and significance in contemporary society. This presentation was truly excellent, right, Professor Sneha?
Yes, indeed, Dr. Archana. And since we don't have enough time, but still we would like to take a couple of questions here. And we have also received very interesting questions, sir. But as because of the paucity of time, we would be sharing these questions with you. And maybe you can help us with some answers later. But for
Sure.
now, let me ask one question which we have received. In your opinion, what are the challenges of maintaining the authenticity of the original epics while making them accessible to the contemporary audiences?
Well, it is left to the writers basically. And as I said, there are now emerging writers who believe in being authentic, who refer to authentic texts in authentic language.
Right.
And there's a wide market opening up for this also. Probably they won't be tempted. Sridhar is another chip of another block. He is actually, deep into spiritualism, and he won't be tempted by money, I believe. But there are others, who actually write for the sake of money only. Now that there's another set of people coming up, I believe that the number of these people will increase and we'll have a wider choice to go in for corrupted ones or the authentic ones. That's my take on it.
Certainly, sir, because your presentation has actually covered a lot of insights, and we could see the comments in the chat because the audience has really loved the presentation and the kind of impact that probably it will create further. I am sure that this is going to be something very different. One more small question to you, sir. What
Yeah.
role, when we say retelling of the Indian epics, since we are also into the education sector, what role does it play in the education today, and how can they be effectively, integrated into the curriculum for that matter?
Mhm. Well, the government is talking of promoting the Indian knowledge systems, right? And I think they don't mean to promote rotten stuff like these corrupted retellings. What will come to the fore is the authentic text and the authentic interpretation. So, what we can do is basically to guide our students how to do this, how to choose the right ones, and integrating them in our language system is going to be in our knowledge system or in our studies in education is going to be there in a big way. I'm sure of this. Already, a number of universities are, there are management departments teaching management lessons through these epics through Bhagavad Gita, through Ramayana, et al. So it's a matter of time that this will catch on, still catching on. And we have a wonderful legacy left to us. Only problem is that we have been probably influenced by other type of thinking. We always look to the West for whatever knowledge we wish to gain, and we forget our own resources, our own wisdom, which is culturally, more amenable to us, and for which we should, of course, be receptive. So I think therein lies the responsibility of teachers also. Thank you.